My parents bought a house when I was about 10 years old after living in an apartment since I was born. I was so excited. It was right near my school. My friends all lived in a close range, and summer had just started. It was perfect. We moved our things in over the course of about 2 weeks before we finally moved in everything. After ordering pizza and playing games to celebrate our first night in the new house, it was time for bed. Being 10 years old, I had severely underestimated how creeped out I would be living in a new environment. When I first lay down, I could have sworn I saw a silhouette of a man outside my window, but upon closer inspection, there was nothing. Nonetheless, I fell asleep rather quickly. I was awoken at around 2 a.m. by a loud thud that came from under my room. Of course, this scared me so much I couldn't even go get my parents to alarm them. I sat on my bed as I listened to a scratching noise that seemed to be coming from the floor itself, and the sounds of things being moved around. Eventually realized that it was my father down there organizing some things, and just reasoned away that the fact that it was so late. The noises went on for about another hour before abruptly stopping around 6 a.m. I went to sleep until about 7:30. The following morning, over breakfast, I asked what my parents were doing downstairs in the middle of the night. They looked at each other and said they had no idea what I was talking about. I let her go, and I figured I must just have been dreaming. Even so, my dad checked the basement and didn't find anything strange, which helped me ease a little bit. My dad left for work, and I stayed at home for the day with my mom. Together, we went in the basement and organized some things and boxes we had thrown down there during the move. Everything went fine, and we eventually left to go out for lunch. My dad got home from work, and we ate dinner. All we watched some TV, and eventually went to bed. At about 11 p.m., I heard the sound of things moving around down there, then scratching again. This time, it was even louder than the night before. I turned and put my face to the wall, trying to fall asleep over the noise. After about 10 minutes, the scratching stopped and sounded like random fumbling could be heard, and sounded like it was coming inside from my room. I was absolutely terrified. I suddenly felt a pair of hands grab me on my upper shoulder and my thigh and squeeze tight as it was trying to get grip of me and pull me away. Just then, my father burst into my room asking me what the hell I was doing in there that was so causing so much noise. I felt like the vice-like grips released my arm and leg, and I was trying to turn around for literally a split second. I saw two features, bright green eyes and a big smile. It disappeared from my sight, and I heard things move below me. My father yelled louder than I ever heard him before. He grabbed me out of my bed. He basically tossed me in the room with my mother and closed the door behind him. I remember not knowing what was going on. I just remember being more scared than I ever thought possible. Eventually, the police came and asked more questions than I ever been asked more. Apparently, someone had gained access to our basement 3 window with a broken lock. He had spent the 2 prior nights cutting and sawing through the floor out of my room next to the bed, and once he made his way through, attempted to grab me from my bed, where he'd profusely take me to the basement out through the open basement window. The first night, my parents must have simply been in too deep of sleep to have heard the cutting. The second night, my dad was still awake reading when it all began. He got fed up with the noise and was coming to the room to yell at me for not being in bed, but instead, it was just a saw. Soon as my dad stepped in the room, the man let me go and dropped in the basement, never to be seen again. The next day, we packed our belongings and moved across town. My parents decided that after such a traumatizing event, there was no way we were staying in that house anymore, and I don't blame them. I often wonder if they caught the man who tried to take me. I ever wonder if he was ever successful. I ever wonder who he was and what he would have done to me if he was successful at that time. When I was 12 years old, me and my dad lived in Martin, Tennessee. He was a superintendent on some kind of public work project. I honestly don't remember what it was, but his company had put him in this apartment in Martin that was okay. We had 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen. Other people lived in the apartment building, but we didn't know them. Due to the custody schedule, I was with my dad's for 4 weeks, I like to say, in Martin. My dad worked at least about 4 days and 10 hours. But because he was a superintendent, he often worked much more time than that. As a result, I spent much of my time alone. On this day in particular, I had just walked an entire 1.5 miles to and from the Martin Library to pick up some books from the Harry Potter series. I was rereading them because, well, I was bored. My dad worked all day and I never saw him. We were in a boring hot town, and had nothing to do. I was buried in a book when I heard the door open. I cannot emphasize enough how empty this goddamn town was. The only real traffic Martin gets is during the school year when the college kids are there. But this summer, the town was ghosted. The scary story started on a weekday. I can't remember what day of the week, but Dad was working and clear in the afternoon. Most scary stories take place in the night, but in some time in the afternoon. But it was bright as fuck. I was sitting on my air mattress, reading Harry Potter, when I heard the door creak. Sometimes my dad would come in and have lunch with me, so I said something along the lines of, "Hey Dad, what's up?" I don't remember what I said. These stories that have the same dialogue, non-sleep or suspected, Anyways, I called out my dad and the door closed. This was weird. My dad is one of the most talkative person I know. He never met a stranger, but just when I was about to go downstairs and find out what was up, I heard the stairs creaking. Someone was coming upstairs. That was not my dad. I knew in my gut. Those few instances where you just know something. I was paralyzed. I was a 14-year-old girl. What could I do when an intruder who had come in? The door was locked. What would happen? I heard him come up the steps, not slowly like in scary movies, just normal, just coming up the stairs. But this wasn't normal. This wasn't my dad. It's dumb, but I braced myself. I didn't move. I didn't hide. I just waited. I didn't know what to do. I heard him ascending. I closed my eyes and I heard the door open. And nothing. Nothing at all. I freaked. No one was there. What the actual fuck? I knew I heard something and speculated all day until my dad did actually come home. And I told him everything. He told me that our apartment was connected to another that was the mirror of us. Our stairs were their stairs. The walls were thin, etc. So I was just hearing the neighbors. I believe him, obviously. I was just being ridiculous and I let it go. Until about a few days later, when I was swimming in the complex pool, when I ran into the owner of the complex, I told her that I was just there for a few weeks and we chatted. And being an awkward, dumb 14-year-old, I told her that there was a problem with our apartment because I could hear our neighbors come up the stairs. She laughed and asked me what apartment we were in. I truthfully don't remember now, but at the time I obviously did, and told her such as she looked confused and asked if I was sure. And I said that had been there for a couple weeks at that point. She told me that they had completely tore down the inside of the apartment and had been occupied and locked until they were gonna begin remodeling. Well, if that hadn't piped my mind. Turns out there had been a murder suicide in the same goddamn apartment a while before. The dad came home after being laid off in an act of desperation, killed his wife and 2 kids. I guess he felt like he couldn't provide them. I don't know. What I do know is that at 22, I never heard of the creaking stairs the same way.